Coming up next on the Big Fat Life podcast, the best version of you is still yet to come. Welcome to episode 118 of the Big Fat Life podcast here on the Pink Eagle Media Network. I'm your host, Dan Rosado. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's a big deal when you decide you need to make a change. When we talk about weight loss, a lot of times that also is tied to our mental state. We don't feel good about ourselves. We don't feel good physically. And that's why we make that decision. The decision to change is because the current state, the status quo, is not working. And it feels like a mountain to climb. You think about maybe how much weight you need to lose or how many things need to change in hopes that it'll get you to a better place. There's uncertainty. And that kind of stuff makes a lot of people not want to go through it. Maybe this is all I've got and it feels hopeless, but it's not hopeless. It's not hopeless because there's still life in you. And how that life plays out, the road ahead of you, is actually determined by the decisions you make. But it's about making those decisions and finding the strength to find those decisions that define our existence. Our next guest has that story. Having been overweight her whole life, she finally had enough. She had tried different things. She ultimately went and got weight loss surgery, but that was just a tool in the toolbox. That wasn't what changed her. What changed her is how she got through it, how she dealt with adversity, how she learned from mistakes of her past, and how now she attacks life and looks forward to what else she can do. Please welcome to the show, Genna Bingenheimer. Hey, Genna, how's it going today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing really well. You look like a completely different person. Let's just start there because your transformation, it almost took a moment to identify that you were the same person before and after. I mean,
people don't think it is. They think I'm lying. I've been told that I'm lying.
It's one of the bigger transformations I've seen before. What did you do to get to where you are today? Like, what was the process?
It's actually this week will be exactly 2 years. I had weight loss surgery and I lost a bulk of it in the beginning. I've been kind of in the same place for about 6 months or so, but I'm still like losing inches and stuff. But as far as the weight, so I had weight loss surgery. I had a lot of complications after surgery. So it took me a minute to start losing because I was actually gaining weight from being so sick. I was malnourished. I had to have TPN as my food. So I wasn't eating because they were afraid of another leak. I wasn't even allowed to drink.
What's TPN?
TPN is, so I had a PICC line put in my arm and this was just my nutrients at night for, 10 to 12 hours or so. It would pump through and it was almost like, a feeding tube, but it stayed on for a while and it was in my arm. And that was how I got my nutrients. They would have to check my blood every single day to make sure, because what they do is they make it daily. And it would, if I was needing more of anything, they would adjust daily. And
right.
So they had to check it to make sure. And I was on that for a little while because I wasn't allowed to eat.
Right. So was it bariatric? Did they cut your stomach? Like, what did they have to do to you?
Oh, I had the duodenal switch. And so, that's like the sleeve, and I call it just rerouting. It's the easiest way. So it's a very invasive one, but I had a lot to lose. So it was the best option for me. So what happened is with my surgery, I had it and I was really good for the first day. I was up and moving and walking. And then I ended up with a leak. And I had every sign of sepsis and it was ignored essentially. And if it was COVID and my mom wasn't there, I wouldn't be here. It would have been a lot worse of a situation. And then I had emergency surgery and a few months of crazy.
Did you at any point regret that you had gone this way, to lose the weight?
Nope, not at all. I knew, even though it was tough, fortunately, I had pain medicine to help. I think it kept my sanity, to be perfectly honest. And I had my family there to just deal with everything. So I could just be there. Like they'd tell me now, they're like, you didn't want the TV on, you didn't want anything. Like my dad came and he just sat there and he worked from my bedside with no TV, no noise, no nothing. And I just could heal. And I knew I was going to get through it. I just had to get through it. And to this day, I was going to die if I didn't do it. Like I was just going down that hole anyway. So I feel like at least if I died, I would have died trying.
Right. What was your process of coming to that decision? Because let's talk about how much you were weighing, how it felt, what were you going through that you finally said, like, I need to do this?
Okay. So I guess I can backtrack a little bit because this wasn't my first rodeo of looking into surgery. I had been heavy my whole entire life. My mom put me in Weight Watchers in like third grade. So weight has been my identity my whole life because it's just been a big deal. I mean, I was very active. I played a million sports. Like it's not, but it just was my life. When I was in high school, I had looked into having it done. And my dad pretty much told me, you want it, you have to pay for all the copays. You have to pay for everything. I couldn't do that. It was $200 and insurance didn't cover everything. And so it was there, which, you know what, I wouldn't have been ready. So it's fine. I moved here to North Carolina, and when I got on my husband's insurance, I had thought about it, but my insurance didn't cover it. And then I don't know, something just made me look into it again because I had different insurance and I could get it. And I was like, I'm doing it. I'm tired of being tired. Even though like I knew I wasn't living now, I really see how much I wasn't living. So I was done. I was tired of it being my identity in a negative way. I still feel like it's my identity, but now in a happy, positive way. So
you had gone through different roads to try to lose the weight. How did that go? Did you ever lose a little bit of weight? Was it frustrating for you?
So when I was in 8th grade, I had done LA weight loss and I lost like 40 pounds. And then I essentially stopped going. And then, of course, I gained it back. And when I was in 3rd grade for Weight Watchers, I did lose like 20 pounds. And then we stopped going. And so those two were like my biggest things. Like I never did, the diet pills. I was never like into real fad diets. I think the only reason I had any success on Weight Watchers or LA weight loss was because it was kind of like what I do now, like very well-rounded. It wasn't very restrictive. It gave you room, to kind of play. It was just like, these are your guidelines of what you should have in a day, how to make those better choices.
Yeah. It's really difficult, right? Because you I feel like, weight loss is the thing that, like you said, just your weight was your identity, which I don't know if people who haven't gone through that understand that. It's you remember all these moments in your life where your weight was either a topic, the issue, the problem. And I think those things weigh on a person mentally because it's a constant burden. It's a burden to yourself, first and foremost. It's a burden to people around you. And then you kind of feel smaller, like you almost want to hide. Like, do you relate to that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. And then I think too, like when I look at it and I look back, I think it was like something was wrong with me because I was so young. And I look back and I remember thinking I looked like what I looked like before surgery. And I'm like, oh my God, like if I could have, so I talk about how my mom and I's relationship with food was really difficult. And I feel like way back when, and my mom did the best that she could, and we've had many conversations, but if she could have just made the natural changes, the healthier changes, didn't make it such a thing, I probably would have honestly grown out of it because, like I said, I played so many sports. I would leave one practice to go to another. I was very, very active. And I think I would have grown out of it. But because it was kind of my mom's thing, she didn't want me to grow up overweight in high school like she was. It became a thing. Like, so if I put too much ketchup on something, like, you know what I mean? I always felt like I was being watched. And my sister and I, we talk about it now, and we're 10 years apart. So if I was 7, she was 17. So you can imagine like the life, you know, at that point. And if she was just at the dinner table looking at me, I'd be like, Mom, she's staring at me. But it was, now that we look back, it's because I always felt watched when I was eating.
Wow.
So it created a really big mental thing. And I do take ownership. When I got older, I made those choices to be a rebel and whatever. But yeah.
Well, it's kind of, it plays into what diet culture is for a lot of people, and why a lot of times a diet doesn't work because of that restriction, because you feel watched. I mean, and you probably feel like the spotlight is bigger on you when you are overweight, when you are unhealthy. So like, it's a conversation. It's right there front and center. I mean, how do you get past that mentally? Because that's the kind of stuff that when you're young, it's built in you. Like that becomes the thing, and you're still dealing with that today.
I don't know. To be honest, I think I still go through it. Like, especially it's just in a different way. Like, it's like, oh, well, you had weight loss surgery. So if I want to have something, I am very much on balance. I know people hate that word. Like, I know they don't, but if I come across a time where I'm like, you know what, I want ice cream. And you know what, while I've been here, I've had ice cream, but I know that I exercise. I know that 90% of my time I'm eating what I'm supposed to. And just if I go off for a second, I don't need to stay off. Like, I've changed my mindset. So I truly do still feel though, like, because, oh, well, you had weight loss surgery, you shouldn't be having that. I know my dad has even done it. He's like, I just don't want you to go down old habits. And I'm like, yeah, but if I completely restrict myself, then I'm going to go crazy. I said, because there's times where I'm like, all right, I really want ice cream, but I'm like, I know it's because I'm emotional right now. So I won't allow myself to have ice cream then, because I know it's not like, oh, I'm out. I'm just in the mood for this. This is the situation. I have to make those decisions on, is this just emotional? Am I eating because I'm bored, because I'm sad or whatever? Or is it, I'm just going to make this decision today? But you have eyes on you because you had weight loss surgery.
Well, how did you develop that? You know, the self-awareness to think about those choices. Like, did that come after the weight loss surgery? Did that come at the
everything?
Yeah. How do you think that came, or you know, what is your feeling about how you grew into that?
I think I just made a decision. I made a decision that I was getting healthier. And over time, I think the confidence in myself, that's all I needed. Like, I have an easier time saying, well, I don't care what they think anymore, because I'm going to do what's best for me. And even if it's not best for me, it's my decision, my consequences. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm no longer going to beat myself up, and I'm no longer going to beat myself up for what other people think, because right. I've learned that they only know what they know, and they can only do what they can do. I don't know how to explain it.
No, I think you do, because you went through this journey.
It's a process.
Yeah, like, you've gone through this journey and you had to make sacrifices. And listen, the decision to get weight loss surgery is not an easy one, I would imagine, because you're also being told, the same way that we're talking about all these other things and restrictions and eyes on you, you're also seeing people succeed naturally, right? They're eating different. They figured it out. Look at me. I lost 200 pounds and I did it by just changing my diet. And for someone like yourself, when you're not succeeding and you're frustrated, it's got to be a little disheartening. So making that leap to say, well, I'm going to do it this way, I imagine that wouldn't be difficult, or that would be difficult.
It is. And so, there's a lot of people who are like secret sleevers and all that. And I'm not going to say that I was secret, because I did talk about it. I just, like, at first I didn't really share my Instagram. Like, I just finally got to the point where I was comfortable showing all my older stuff. But when I was going through the 6-month process, I only told like my people. Like, some people at work knew, but I just was like, I know this is what I need. I know this is the right decision. The important people, they backed me. And to be honest, even if they didn't, it didn't matter. I was doing it. And I just I just had to focus. That was really what it boiled down to. And then I got sick and I kind of fell off the face of the earth. But as soon as I was okay, I like went back on Facebook and I was like, so I'm sure you guys like noticed that I haven't been around, because I literally couldn't even get in my phone, which was a Face ID. I was just so gone. And so I wasn't really posting anything. And I was like, this is what's been going on, or still is. And and ever since then, I've been very open about it. I just finally started to share more of my pictures, like those uncomfortable. But my Instagram, this has always been for me. It's never been, I never really thought it would be what it is now, because I have a decent amount of followers and whatnot. But it's a place where I could be vulnerable, and it helped me grow and accept.
Do you think that's important for people who are going through a weight loss journey, or however they go about it? Do you think accepting that and being vulnerable is an important tool to get through this mentally?
Yeah, I don't think you necessarily need an Instagram, but for me, I feel like it's allowed me to be real with myself. I know there's a lot of really weird things that I take pride in with my Instagram, and it's that I normally don't use a filter. If I do, it's typically like to make it black and white or colored or whatever, or just like make it a lighter thing, because I want to feel good about myself for how I look. And I do like to promote brands, but brands that I truly like. Like this, my Instagram is truly for me. It's for me to document my progress. And sometimes if I put like a question on there, it's because it's helping me. Like at the end of the day, that's for me. And it's really allowed me to be like, I don't want to put something to seem fake either. So then it makes me internally realize like, okay, Jenna, you need to work on this. Like,
right. Well, speaking of the work that you had to do, I think it's important to note always when someone does what you did and have the surgery to try to help them lose weight, that it's not that simple, right? You didn't just get a sleeve. I mean, obviously you were sick afterwards, but once you healed up, it's not like, all right, well, just carry on with your life. You had to relearn and give some real thought to what you were eating, and there was help there from dietitians and nutritionists as well. What did you change? Like, what were some of the changes you made with your food choices and how you went about eating?
Protein first, always. That's kind of the core to, I feel like, bariatric surgery. And obviously portions, and I don't like to have things in the house that I shouldn't have in the house. I don't like to go to the food store if I'm hungry. I try to be prepared as much as I can. I try to also give myself grace at times. Like I just try to find the balance, and I'm still learning. I still have so much to learn. And I just, instead of like thinking, oh, by this date, I have to have this, I have to be here. No, it's a lifelong journey. This is how I'm going to be forever. And I don't put that pressure on myself. Like I'm also not lax, but
It's easy to put pressure on yourself though, because you made this big thing. You put a monetary investment, you've put time investment into this. This is, in a lot of ways, I think for people when they decide to do weight loss surgery, this is like the last straw. Like this is like their last beacon of hope. And if they can't make this work, what are they going to do? So I imagine that's an immense amount of pressure. Now, for you, you succeeded through that. What was that feeling like when you see that this is working? I mean, you've lost, how much weight have you lost?
Like right at 250.
I mean, that's incredible. And that's not done like with a simple procedure in a hospital room. So what does that feel like when you look back? You're sharing pictures, you're being vulnerable, you're seeing the old you. People don't even believe that the old you, if it wasn't for the tattoos, they probably wouldn't think like there was a chance.
No, they said they were even the wrong tattoos. Like people examined. I put up a TikTok a few weeks ago and people were like, I call BS. I'm like, I said, well, what's my motive? I'm not selling a weight loss product. I'm saying, and I'm like that. Yeah, but I get it all the time. People don't recognize me. Like I've gone into work because I work from home and I've gone up there and people just don't, but I don't recognize myself. I also sometimes, until I see a before and after picture, still feel like that other person, still feel whatever. But then I'll have those non-scale victories where I can go do something. Like that's why if you ever hear me talk, I will always tell you, take before pictures and take them every single month at the same time, especially for the first year at least. Because when the scale doesn't move, those pictures and measurements will show it. And now that I'm pretty much been where I've been for quite some time, and then I feel like because I know I'm not done, but because I'm still where I am, I'm like, okay, well, look at where you came from, because you're a different person. And I can't fathom it sometimes. I'm like,
when you think about the fact that you're such a different person and you see those pictures of the old you and how you used to look, and I'm sure it reminds you of how you used to feel. Does that just feel like a different life altogether?
Yes, I was actually going to say that. Like, I literally feel like I am living in a whole new lifetime, like that I was like brought back and I'm a new person but then when I'm still in my head, sometimes it's just weird. I don't even know how to explain it, but I'm like, until I see pictures, sometimes I can look in the mirror and still see that old person. And then I see the pictures. I'm like, Jenna, you're an idiot. Come on, get it together. And that's probably why I'm very consistent on posting Transformation Tuesday, Face-to-Face Friday, because sometimes that's my sanity. And
kind of gives you that reminder of, and I've said this before, but it's very important, I think, to take those moments in anything that you do in life and remind yourself that you have come this far. And this applies to more than just weight loss, right? There's such a mental shift that you had to make here. And to look back and realize, you know what, I'm having a bad day. I'm feeling like I'm still 250 pounds heavier. I'm feeling like I'm still this person who's maybe scared or hopeless. But you know what? Like, I actually have proven to myself that that's not the case. Those reminders are fuel for the fire, I would imagine.
Yeah. And so I'm sure you've heard it, like, this too shall pass. That is such a big thing for me, because I'm like, all right, I've gone through so much, not even just with this, but in my life. So I've talked about it, but like, I don't know, God, it's been 12 years or so. I went through I have depression and anxiety, but I attempted suicide. Not very well, apparently. And
Thankfully.
thankfully, but I went through a really dark time, and it was years before I had really come through it. And I'm so thankful now for it, because it made me stronger. And to be honest, if I didn't go through all that, I never mentally could have handled this.
Right.
Like when I was in the hospital and my mom had finally gone home and my dad had finally gone home, because my mom was starting a new job. She had to go back sooner. And my parents were really worried because I wouldn't answer the phone and stuff, but it was because I just couldn't. But they had to tell my nursing staff, like, hey, like, she suffers with depression. I was withdrawing. And I finally like called them. I said, look, I said, I'm okay. I'm not even remotely depressed. I said, I just can't. And my mom's like, okay, I hear you. And she could be fine from then, but I would have never, without my therapy, have been able to get through this.
I don't know how much you want to dig into this, but I am curious, when you went through that in your life, right? When, you know, was that stemming from also how you felt about yourself physically? Was it more than that you know, was that a symptom of what you were going through?
Okay. So, like I said, I had been going through depression and anxiety, and it was kind of treated, kind of not. I had something happen in sixth grade, something really like stupid, but as a sixth grader, it was tragic. It's so silly, but so that was tragic as far as a friend situation. And so then I kind of had always been going through depression, and I was in a relationship for 4 years, and the last bit of it was a lot of mind games. And I'm not saying that my suicide attempt was because of him, because it wasn't. It was one day he said, you can't make me happy, she can. And that was the icing on the cake, that I couldn't make someone happy. And I already was so sad with myself and already had so many issues that I didn't work on. And it was just the icing on the cake, to be honest. And I blamed him for a really long time. And it wasn't. It was just a really bad year. And that was his fault, but I didn't know how to cope with it, if I'm being quite honest. And I wasn't strong enough to stand up for myself either. So
that's a huge thing in life in general. And the fact that, you know, you couldn't cope with it. A lot of people can't cope with it. And the fact that, you know, you felt how you felt, a lot of people can go through that as well. And we all handle it differently. Some people, you know, go to the extremes that you went to. Some people dive into drugs and alcohol, like they just abuse themselves and try to slowly kill themselves. And you know, it's a hard thing. It's part of life, right? Like I actually read something yesterday that really I found it so true that I think it's worth repeating. It was the idea that you go through 3 loves in your life. The first love is your first love. It's your first experience of love. You kind of feel all the good, like, you know, I hate to say it, but juvenile feelings of love. And because it's your first experience, it matters. It matters. It's real, despite, you know, when you look back in life, you think, oh, I was such a kid, but it's real. It's real for that time because it's your only definition of it. The second version of love that we go through is that feeling of, it's usually the one that hurts. It's the one that you get beat up over. It's the one where, you know, your self-worth comes into question. It's the one where you start to, you know, maybe be abused verbally. Sometimes people get abused physically and they don't know, maybe this is the love I deserve. And then when you get out of that, that love becomes very important, ironically, because it teaches you, if you come out of it good, it teaches you your self-worth. It teaches you that I will not put up with XYZ. I learned a bad version of love that I will not do and I will not put up with. And then you grow and you take off from there. And then you find that last, hopefully last love, or that last definition of love in your life is the one that you almost don't see coming. It's the one that you are working on you and you're happy with you and you're feeling confident about you, and suddenly it finds you. I think, you know, not to divert so much from weight loss, but I think that's something that all of us go through in some way, shape, or form. When you're going through it from your standpoint, it's especially difficult, the mental part of this, and then, you know, the self-worth part that you don't have. To finally find that is a huge accomplishment. And it's something that you are showing every day.
Well, so I have been very open and I have talked about this, but I'm married. This next month will be 9 years. That same person had come back in my life, and of course, there was an affair, and my husband knows we were working through it, but I was going to leave for him, and it kind of all fell apart. And that we don't need to really go into that because he's also in this community and may hear this. So there's that. But looking back at how I handled it before and it happening now, obviously a lot of emotions were brought up, but you have to think, like, I was going through such a change with this weight loss that it allowed me, to go to that place. And it's just interesting to see how different it was handled. And don't get me wrong, like I'm still hurt. I'm still dealing with it, and that's something I work through, but I never would have wanted to try and kill myself again, right. And I know that I deserve more and better. And it's just really interesting how it shifted.
Well, and that shows with what you've been doing with yourself, with your body, with your health, because you've shifted all those things where now you think about things, you take a moment, you pause. Am I hungry? Am I, am I emotional? Is that why I want this? Or am I actually needing this? Those changes are big changes. And that's what we go through in a weight loss journey. That empowerment, how does that feel? How do you feel as a person in terms of how much you've changed?
I feel stronger. I feel like I have more control. I can be more honest with myself and be like, it's okay. You feel this way. This isn't reality, or this is what reality is. How do I change it? How do I move forward? Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm in control. And even though I might not always be the best, I can always move forward. I've never been able to be this vulnerable, even to myself, if that makes any sense. Like, I've allowed it to be okay, to not always be okay, and to be stronger.
It's huge because you actually are very self-aware now, and you also accept yourself. Acceptance is a big part of this. Look, I mentioned to you before we started recording the podcast, that it takes a lot, whether people realize it or not. It takes a lot to share yourself out there. It takes a lot to say, hey, listen, this is what I used to look like, and this is what I used to feel like, because a lot of weight loss journeys are personal. It isn't easy. And when you go through it, you almost don't want the attention because it's kind of scary and it's spooky. And then it's, what if I fail? And all those voices inside. So when you put yourself out there, you're also, I think, telling yourself, like, hey, this is what I used to be. This is who I used to be. And that's okay because it's made me who I am. Like,
exactly.
Are there moments that you actually thank that girl who you used to be before?
Yeah. I mean, and that girl was strong enough to make the choice to change. And, I mean, it's just who I am now. And maybe I can use that to help somebody else because I know I'm not alone. And kind of like what I was telling you before, like, I just own it. Like, talking about my affair is not easy. There's a lot of fault. I had a lot of hurt, and I only don't go into details because it's not just me. It's also my husband and the other person and whatever, but it happened. I learned from it and I moved forward. That's who I used to be. I have lost weight. It's not who I am anymore. And I'm a different person. Like, my goals are different. My likes are different. My everything is different. I mean, if we go on vacation, it's no longer where are we going to eat? It's what adventure are we going on? Like, this, I told you I'm away. I'm in Arkansas right now visiting my friend. I am working while I'm here, but we were like, what exercise classes are we doing? She sent me a Tai Chi. I was like, I don't know what it is, but it's exercise. Okay. Never done it. Sure. We're doing something else. I'm like, oh God, I have no no coordination, but yep, I'll be there. Let's see if we can do cartwheels. We went running. Like I just went running the past 2 days. Like who am I to wake up at 5 a.m. to go running? Like, I don't know. Life is just different. I just push myself. And then I'm like, oh man, I'm capable of doing so much more.
Which is exciting. Which is really exciting. How long did it take you from your weight loss surgery and recovery to get into exercise? Because I know that's a big part of your life now.
As soon as I could. As soon as I had drains after surgery, my second one. So like as soon as they were out and I was able to really move and whatnot, I was at the gym. Very easy walking. And then it just built and built and built and built. I will try anything. And, for a while I was just trying anything to see what my thing was. And I just want to become stronger. And I just want to be able to do whatever I want. Like, if I want to go running, I want to go running. If I want to do Tai Chi, I want to go do Tai Chi. I also think my biggest thing with exercise is it's no longer a punishment. It's because I like it and I like how it makes me feel.
Which is an important distinction when you're actually going through this, to not feel like it's something that you are dreading to do, but something that you're excited to do.
Yeah. Like this morning, I did not want to get up, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. Like, I'm going to get up. And when I was done, I felt so good from it. And I was proud of myself for pushing myself. And it's like, once you start pushing yourself, it's easier to continue.
Right. Where are you now with everything? I know that you sort of alluded to the idea that, the weight loss has slowed. You still have an idea of where you want to be. You're not quite there yet, it sounds like.
No, maybe 20 pounds. I mean, I know I take skin into account too. So that is that. But before I would be where I would even start thinking of skin, any plastics, I'm maybe 20 pounds. I'm starting to get to the point where I'm like, okay, where am I? How do I feel? If I had the skin off, because I don't like going off a BMI. I think it's a bunch of BS. I don't like going off a clothing size because some things I am a extra small. Some things I am a 3X. I mean, it is ridiculous. So I refuse to base my self-worth off of any sort of number at this point. I'm not where I want to be yet. But once I get there, then I plan to focus on really like building more muscle. I would like to see what I can do with my arms before I decide if I want to do plastic on that, because
sure,
if I don't have to have surgery, like I don't expect to be perfect, but if I can fill in some of that, I would be happy.
With all this weight loss, something that we didn't bring up, but I know was a problem for you, was dealing with PCOS, right?
Yes.
And how did that hinder you from weight loss, or how did that affect your weight loss journey?
To be honest, I don't know. I'm sure it played a big role in like before surgery. I don't know that it does now. So I used to never really have a period ever. And then I would get it for 6 months to a year and it would be awful. And then when I had surgery, we knew that it could bring it on because it's just common, and it did. And it was funky for a good 6 months. And ever since then, since I was in high school, it has been how normal. It should be. And I don't have any sort of birth control because we're talking about kids. So we wanted to take the IUD out and just, see what my body does. And it has been like, we thought maybe taking it out would have ended up making it wonky again. And it is not. It is like dead on. And it's really weird that my body is working the way it's supposed to.
Do you think the weight loss attributes to that?
Yeah. So we didn't know if I could get pregnant, and I still might not be able to, but my doctor said, your surgery may have like kind of fixed those problems. So.
Right. Which is why, weight loss is, as you said, it's so much more than any number can define. It's about your health and what's going on inside. And it's a
Mm-hmm.
lot for us to carry on so much extra weight and to be able to fix that. It's not, listen, we love the aesthetics, right? We have to, it's what we see. It's what we see. It's how we identify in many ways, but what's going on inside. And in your case, and so many cases, it's not just the physical, it's the mental. The mental's a big part of
Oh
this. And
yeah.
that's why you've gotten as far as you've gotten. So what are some of your goals moving forward?
I would like to get to whatever I decide is my goal, like whatever I think is sustainable. I would really like to get to that point, and from there, I want to become stronger. I'm not saying I want to be a bodybuilder. That's not what my aesthetic would be, but I don't want to say bulk up because that even sounds like bodybuilder, but you know what I mean? Like I want to really be able to lift some weights and see as much of the definition. Like if I didn't have skin, I can feel where my definition would be. And even to an extent I can see it. And I love that. And I just want to find a healthy balance in life, be healthy, feel good, be strong, just be the best version of myself that I can be, and eventually start to give back to, I talk with my surgeon about when COVID and all that is done, like being a mentor, and I want to do that because I want to be a patient advocate. So if someone doesn't have the support like I did, I can be them.
Right. Sure. And you get to, your body is almost like a new toy right now. You kind of keep pushing yourself and thinking, what else can I do? Like you mentioned before. So that's all great. That's wonderful. Genna, I know, as you said, you share a lot of your story, a lot of before and afters. You do it primarily on Instagram, it looks like. So why don't you share that with our audience?
It is digesting_my_feelings.
All right. We're going to put that in our show notes. And Genna, this was a great conversation. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's an important moment when you can actually stop, look back, and realize how far you come to know that you've been successful. It's a very important thing that we need to remember in anything that we do, to take that moment and think about our success, because the failures are in front of us all the time, where we're not where we want to be. We're not where we thought we'd be. Well, how about how far you've actually come? And that doesn't mean that it's over, you've succeeded, you move on. It means, what else can I do? Use that as fuel for the fire. That's what Genna teaches us today, is that you have successes, you have failures, highs and lows, but taking that moment to appreciate those highs and appreciate how far you've come can be the fuel that drives you forward and helps you to further success. This is a lifelong journey. It's not a 6-month journey. It's not a quick weight loss thing. It's about having your health and doing something meaningful with your life. And that's what Genna's looking for now. That's why she wants to help other people. That's why she shares her story. And that's something that we can definitely take with ourselves on our own personal journeys. Make our best self that we can imagine, keep striving for that, and success is all over. Don't forget, if you'd like to watch a video version of this episode, you can just go to YouTube, type in Big Fat Life Podcast, subscribe to the channel, and you'll see this episode. You'll see our conversation as well as other conversations. We're going to keep on loading those up as we go on through the weeks. Thank you once again for tuning into the show. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, you are allowed to leave a rating and review, so feel free to do so, as we appreciate the feedback. If you listen somewhere else and you want to let us know how you feel, you can reach us on Instagram and Facebook at Big Fat Life Podcast, and on Twitter, we're Big Fat Life Pod. As always, I thank you for allowing me to share my journey and the story of so many others. Remember, it's a long journey, it's a big fat journey, but one we can reach as long as we stay the course and stay strong. Music in the show, You Can't Fail by Destiny and Time. Our theme song is Clear Eyes by Silent Partner. Our amazing producer is my awesome wife, Alyssa Rosado. Thanks again for listening. Have a great week.